All right. What's happening, everybody? It is Sunday night off the cuff podcast. I plan on having a very, very light crew, and it's going to be a very, very short podcast tonight. New schedule coming out. So I'm going to be going on Mondays and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. from now until training camp. And then we'll kind of reassess the podcast schedule from there. Appreciate you guys joining me tonight. See you guys in here. So I've been sick, man, all weekend. Not myself. Had a infusion on Friday, and it just did not make me feel very good. So between that and biologic drugs and everything else these doctors got me on, it is not a fun weekend for me. So I wanted to just pop in real quick, one, to let you guys know the new schedule. So I'm going to do Mondays and Thursdays at 7:30. And then we're going to be getting the All Grit podcast kicked off, hopefully this week. I think that we're moving in that direction. We got a couple more things to handle. We should be getting that podcast kicked off. Rise and Grind Monday show will still be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Depends how long it goes. We'll see. Could be an hour, could be an hour and a half, could be 2 hours some days. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So anyway, hope everyone had a good weekend. Obviously the Lions don't have practice tomorrow because they forfeited it. So I guess we'll start with that news. I'm still a little bit confused as to what the heck happened here, because the practice was no big deal, but apparently the contact was. Now, all we heard all week last week from Dan Campbell was he kept telling the guys to lay off, to back off, to, settle down, save it. We don't have pads on yet. He had the guys going walk through speeds. The DBs in that, I think, were going full go. The wide receivers were going full go, but the offense, defensive line were kind of, walk through speeds. So I'm really confused as to what contact was made. And I really didn't see a great article. I can't say that I searched a ton. You would think that when you're not feeling good and you're kind of just bumming around, you would read more, but no, that's not the case. I did not. So anyway, who do we got in here tonight? We got J-Rod in the house, Tracy, Salty Pork Chops, Braylon Dennis, Steve K. Hey, it's been a minute, Steve. Michael Garrity. Hey, you found it. You found the show, Michael. Glad you found it. Bruce Morton's in the house, James O'Brien, Michael Marker, 301. And yeah, I wonder if we told on ourselves. Jalen Reeves-Maben snitched us out. I don't know. I can't imagine that he would do that. I mean, obviously he has a pretty important role as the president of the NFLPA. I can't imagine that he would, but at the same time, I mean, maybe he had to. Maybe he told the coach when he was done, hey, look, I got to do this. I mean, if someone's watching and seeing what's going on and I don't report it, I'm going to be in trouble. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it comes up. But listen, tonight, the unique information, it's kind of funny, right? I mean, the stuff with Dan Campbell, press conferences are always loaded, man. He's always got you just kind of on the tips of your toes or ready to run through a brick wall. You never know with Dan Campbell, but it's always an amazing time watching and listening to his press conferences. And the other day, he was talking about Fullback, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But at the same time, I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. Now, I can't say with too much validity here that, this is a highly accurate situation unfolding in Allen Park, that Alim McNeill is going to be playing fullback in the Honolulu Blue. But according to, let's see here, we got an article here by Jerry Reisman. And he made some statements, and they said this offseason the team opted to not re-sign Jason Kabinda. No surprise. I mean, I did not expect that to happen either. He's battled injuries over the last couple of years, having only played in 4 games, with the Lions last season. That the Lions explored several in-season options to replace Kabinda, which one was Rodriguez, Malcolm, which he did a great job. And then they've also, they got Brock Wright, they got James Mitchell, they got Sam Laporta. They all played about a dozen snaps or so in the backfield. But if you guys have listened to me for any length of time at all, you would know that I'm high on a few things. And one is fullback position I'm not high on. Like I'm extremely low on the totem pole here with fullback position. I have always said it would be better for you to keep an extra linebacker, keep an extra safety, keep an extra offensive lineman, keep an extra tight end, anybody but a fullback. You know, somebody that can give you more than just special teams, right? Someone that can give you better play on the field as a backup. And maybe somebody you don't want to lose. Like maybe you're teetering between keeping, you know, that ninth and 10th offensive lineman, or that, you know, 6th or 7th linebacker, or maybe it's 3 or 4 tight ends. You know, why wouldn't you want to keep a tight end, you know, over somebody else like a fullback that is only going to get in a handful of snaps anyway? The one thing that I will say about the position in itself, though, in this offensive scheme, it is used enough, or that situational play is used enough to warrant having something on the roster to fulfill that role. So I'm all for this move that the Lions did not re-sign Cabinda. And no, that's not an indictment on Cabinda. I'm not being negative towards him. It's just the position. And I feel where that position fits with this team, or any team, to be honest with you. I mean, I think there's like 6 or 7 teams in the NFL that still have a fullback on the team. And I think a lot of other teams have gone to the, you know, let's use a different position if we're going to need somebody back there. But let's talk about Alim McNeill for a second. So Dan Campbell was quoted as saying this. He said, Rodrigo is playing. He's at the linebacker position competing. We've got a stable full of tight ends, and we're working with a little bit. So that fullback could be a tight end. It could be one of those other guys. One option that the Lions have not acted on, though, is using defensive tackle Alim McNeill in that role. But it is something that the Lions have talked about since they drafted him in 2021. They just have to weigh the options, the balance between overworking him, you know, when he's such a critical piece on the defense, as Jeremy Reisman is you know, said here, you know, and not, you know, overworking him, not putting him into dual roles. Personally, I wouldn't want to see him as the fullback continuously. Like goal line, sure, get him in there, 1,000%. Matter of fact, put Broderick Martin back there too. Big guy, you know, running the ball up the middle. I mean, I think Eric Rittabacki was talking about Manu, you know, like Giovanni Manu. Hell, throw him back there. You know, put a big guy back there that can move. You can get out and clear some space for Gibbs or Montgomery, you know, to get in the end zone. But here's what he had to say, Dan Campbell. He said he can do it, talking about Alim McNeill. He said he can do it. It's just how many plays did he just play on the last drive? Was this a 10-play drive? Does he have his energy back to run out there at fullback? We've talked about it for a while. And that's the part that blew my mind when I read that they've been talking about this for a long time. And he goes on to say, you never know. We could put him in there. And you know, all joking aside, this is something to watch as the Lions do get deeper into the offseason. And we'll see what happens. He went on to say, Dan Campbell, we'll address it when the time comes, but we're not going to force it either. And we're not going to go out and start looking through or scouring rosters and say, let's find a fullback. If the right guy shows or the right guy is here, we'll figure it out. If not, then we'll use a tight end. So I think you have your answer. Our tight end is going to be the fullback moving forward unless something else develops. But you know, I'm not without video. And I'll come into the chat here in just a minute. I see this thing's been flying here for a second. I got some video of Alim McNeill in high school toting the rock. I think this is high school. And shout out to Jerry Reisman also posting this in his article. I found it through Twitter, but he made it real simple to find here again. Here we go. Get out of town. Let's watch it again. Look at the moves. You guys slip. That just looked too easy. Man, could you imagine? Could you imagine have a lean back there? My goodness. All right. Well, I had fun with that. I would love to see it. I don't know about you guys, but I'd love to see it. At least just once. At least once. All right, who do we got in the house? Chef joined us. All right, we got JT's Massive Purpose in the house. Detroit fan man, fullback on the roster before you can even consider a second kicker just for kickoffs. Well, kind of weird to hear that being considered. Punter, kicker, kickoff specialist just sounds inefficient. You know, that does. I don't know if the Lions have addressed that. I don't think that they're going to. I can't imagine that they would add a second kicker just for kickoffs. Yeah, that's kind of weird. You know, that is really weird, to be honest with you. Who else has joined us here? 9 drinks in the house. Put Broderick in as fullback. See, man, we thinking alike. I love it. Chef Talks Lions. What do you say? Just doing some editing. All right. JT's Massive Purpose says LFG love the video. Making some business decisions too when he's coming at me. Yeah, Alim the Dream, man. I can't wait to hear, you know, when his album, I think he's dropping an album or dropping a single or something. I heard one of his songs. Wasn't bad. It wasn't terrible. I wouldn't say it's, you know, top 100 on the pop charts or anything like that, but, you know, yeah, I think it's decent. I think it's pretty good. I don't have any cuts of it, but all right. So 53-man roster projections. It's way too early. It's way too early for a few things here. Tomorrow morning on the Rise and Grind Morning Show, we got 2 things, of course. So Mondays, we're going to talk about over-under. I'm going to come up with about 20 different scenarios. We're going to give you some over-under options on. And then we're going to be talking about the way too early top 10 NFL teams after mandatory minicamp. And who are the top 10 teams headed into training camp? And who's going to survive that list? I'll ask you guys a question. Do you think the Lions are in the top 10, top 5, or outside of the top 10? This could almost be an over-under question tonight. Over-under, Lions are top 5 in the NFL's way too early in June top 10 predictions. We're going to have some fun with it tomorrow. I'll tell you what, you can give me your answer tonight, but I'm not going to tell you anyway. I'm not going to tell you with what I found. You have to wait till tomorrow morning if you guys want to find out. Join the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Oh, Mike P says over on the 5. Okay. Tony Lackamore, new name in. Hope you're doing well, Tony. He says Alim is too dominant to take off the D-line. Yes, he is. But the good news is the defense should be done when the offense on the field, right? Hope so. Braylon Dennis, Jake Bates is on the market now. Yeah, he is. You know, what a crappy way to end the season for the Panthers. You know what I saw there? You know what I'm about to say? I saw the Detroit Lions in the NFC title game. That's what I saw. It was like repeating history on a different Michigan team. I was not happy. I was not happy at all. They completely froze up and fell apart and let that team come back and kick them. I mean, totally kicked them to the curb. So, yeah, Jake Bates is available. It'd be interesting to see how quickly he gets scooped up. As you guys know, I'm not on the train that missing a kick or two is going to prevent him from getting some looks in the NFL. I think that his body of work is pretty telling for the type of leg that he has. I also don't think that it's absolutely critical that the Lions bring in another kicker. Was it Jake Turner for the Lions? He's actually been playing pretty well. He's been doing a pretty good job turning heads actually so far in the camps and practices that they have had. All right, so moving on, 53-man roster predictions. And I have to tell you, I've read a few articles, statements from some people around the leagues. And this 53-man roster by Christian Boer, I almost kind of have a bone to pick with it, but at the same time, maybe I don't. Let me pull up the roster right now. So Lions roster. I don't think that they've made any changes since Friday. Let's talk about it. So let's start with quarterback right away. Okay, I think that this one's an easy one to talk about right now. And Oh, J-Rod, you can't join the morning show? Man, just turn it on. Just turn it on and listen. Put an earbud in and just listen. You don't have to type away. Just listen, right? JT's Massive Purpose says, crazy how we get to talk about top 5 now. Isn't it crazy? I think it is too. It's well-deserved, though. Well-deserved. J-Mommy in the house. Haven't seen you in a minute. Rodriguez already has the experience in the offensive backfield. Bates wouldn't have to relocate if he played for the Lions. Good points. Great points. So anyway, let's talk about the quarterback position here, first of all. The Detroit Lions, as you know, finally have Hendon Hooker on the field. He's been getting extensive looks over the last couple of practices, mandatory minicamp, OTAs. And he's played well at times. And he's extremely struggled at times. His accuracy has been likened to a scatter shot of buckshot by yours truly, scatter shot by somebody else. I called it buckshot because he's just spraying all over the field. Couldn't even hit a net on, many opportunities. So am I worried about it? Nah, not really. I think you have to be really bad to not beat Nate Sudfeld out for a position, like really bad. I don't think Hendon Hooker is that bad. I think his athleticism alone would land him as the number 2 backup to Jared Goff before Nate Sudfeld gets a crack at being the backup again this year. So I'm not concerned at this point. That's why it's the way too early predictions of June for the 53-man roster, because we have to wait and see what's going to happen in training camp. We have no idea. We could arrive at training camp and we could find out that Hendon didn't get any better. And then we have to have that conversation. So for right now, quarterbacks 1 and 2, Jared Goff, Hendon Hooker. And I do not believe the Lions are going to keep a third quarterback. They'll have the emergency option like every other team. They'll be able to stash one on the practice squad, which they'll have to do. I don't believe that they're going to keep a third quarterback on this roster to start the season. Now, Christian Brewer and I agree on this. He has Jared Goff and Hendon Hooker. And he had this to say. He says, though Hendon Hooker has struggled in practice, he has still shown flashes of talent that the Lions were drawn to. He should still get every opportunity to be the team's backup. And with so much talent on the roster elsewhere, it's just hard to justify keeping a third passer. So I'm in line with that. I agree with that 1,000%. Running backs. This is one that I have a little bit of a problem with because my heart's kind of attached to Craig Reynolds, right? I love what the guy does. I love what he represents. He's just been, in my opinion, an important piece to this team. Whenever he's come in, he's produced. Whenever he was called up, he's produced. He's relatively stays healthy. And it's tough for me to see where he's probably not going to make the team this year. But Christian Brewer has David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Craig Reynolds, then Sion Vaki all making the team. For me, it would be different. I'm good with all 4 of those guys, but Craig Reynolds, unfortunately, I have not making the team. And that's assuming, again, that Sion Vaki plays well, does well, performs well in training camp. Because if he doesn't, then obviously that paves the way for Craig to secure his spot. I can't imagine the Lions. I really can't imagine the Lions keeping 4 running backs. And matter of fact, while I say that, let me look up the 53 from last year. I can't remember. Can't remember everybody right now. What do you guys got to say here? We keeping 3 or 4 running backs. And I assume you agree with the quarterback situation. All right. So last season, the Lions only did keep 3. This is the crazy thing. We kept Jason Kabinda. So this year we're much better, right? We've got Craig Reynolds or Sion Vaki, to choose from. And we're not having to keep this, extra fullback on the roster chewing up a roster spot. So I got 3: David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sion Vaki, Craig Reynolds, odd man out. Unfortunately, he'll have to make the practice squad. But to be honest with you, he's probably going to get picked up. He's probably going to be one of the guys we end up losing. He could be a situation where the Lions, I don't know. I'm not going to say that teams IR players, injured players when they're not injured or use certain designations to keep a player. But they do. Those conversations are had. And they'll say, hey, you're just going to be injured and you want to stay on the team, right? You're just going to be injured. Again, I'm not saying that the Lions do that. I'm not saying that other teams do that, but I'm saying that they probably do. But anyway, wide receivers, we'll move on. We have Christian Boer saying, according to his calculations, we're keeping 6, which would be a step up from last year. So I would agree with the number. I think that the Lions are going to keep 6 wide receivers as well. He has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Khalif Raymond, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Antoine Green, and Darius Fountain. Now, last year we kept 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Khalif Raymond, Marvin Jones, Antoine Green, and Josh Reynolds. I will tell you that I'm pretty positive and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Antoine Green, Khalif Raymond are all secure in their position. Donovan Peoples-Jones and Darius Fountain are probably the only 2 in the wide receiver room right now that I'm going to question with everybody else that's in the room as well. So you have Maurice Alexander. I don't even know who Jelon Calhoun is. You've got Caden Davis, Darius Fountain, Antoine Green, Tom Kennedy, of course, DPJ, Traquan Smith, Isaiah Williams. So I'm going to question whether or not Darius Fountain makes it over in Isaiah Williams or a Traquan Smith. I don't know enough about those guys yet, but I will say this. The Lions are probably going to keep 6. And the reason why is because they're going to have these questions of, is DPJ enough? Is Antoine Green enough? Can we lose, experience that's coming from, Traquan Smith? And I think that those answers are going to mean that they keep an extra wide receiver. Finally, they did in 2022 because Jameson Williams is coming off that injury. Or coming off the ACL, right? So they had to keep an extra one. Or I'm sorry, last year they had to keep an extra one when he was coming off of suspension. So I think they do it again this year. I think it's going to be the norm that we keep 6 receivers. And I almost feel like we have to keep extra receivers because we can't afford to pay these big, high price free agents anymore now that Amon-Ra St. Brown is clocking $30 million a year. J Mommy says Vaki will probably be special teams also. Absolutely. It's possible to keep 4. Jerry and Taya says, absolutely not. You can't cut Craig. Well, maybe he'd get picked up and be able to play. Mike P says, I think Green is the odd man out for the wide receivers. J-Rod says, I believe DPJ has a better year than we are talking or thinking. I would agree with you there, J-Rod. I agree with you there. Salty Pork Chops, I think DPJ gets the spot before Green. DPJ is the more seasoned vet. And J Mommy says the 2 players best at contested passes, Peoples-Jones and Laporta. Good point. Count Buffalo says, remember to count Gibbs as a receiver. Very true. Very, very true. I would love to see him on the field this year while Montgomery's on the field too. I would really love to, because that would mean he'd be out wide or they'd be back in, some sort of a double back set. Either way, I believe the Lions are going to keep 6. I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Khalif Raymond, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Antoine Green. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. I know Darius Fountain's had a pretty good summer so far, early summer, late spring, whatever you want to call it. But something tells me Traquan Smith or Isaiah Williams is going to make a late push in camp. I think Isaiah Williams is going to be really difficult to keep off this roster if he stays healthy and he actually gets some looks in camp. So I'm going to make a late push. I don't really know who's going to be that 6th receiver just yet, but I think the Lions are going to keep 6. Christina Ramona Rossi says, hello, Rock Down. Hello, Christina. James says, what's up, everybody? What's up, James? Steven David says they traded for DPJ. I think that means a lot. Should be a bigger year for him. I believe so, too. You know, this is a year that he's actually going to have a full offseason with Jared Goff. And given that we know Jared Goff has to develop that camaraderie, that chemistry, that continuity, right? They got to gel. This is going to be the first season that they're going to be able to realize that together. And it would give him a better opportunity to make the squad. So Christian Boer had to say this. He said, as of now, the top three appear set. Peoples, Jones, Green have alternated between reps of the first and second teams. So both should be able to fill depth roles with the possibility of contributing when needed. For the last spot, Fountain is intriguing. He spent all of last year on the practice squad and has good size. If he can be reliable in training camp, there is a spot for the taking. Good points, Christian. Good points. Tight ends. This is where it kind of gets dicey for me. Tight ends. I almost want to say the Lions would keep 4. And part of that is because of the fact we do need that fullback, right? So do we keep an extra tight end that normally wouldn't make the roster to keep him in as the fullback when we have 2 tight ends on the field already? Well, that would mean you need a minimum of 3, right? So if you have 2 tight ends in and a fullback, you would need 3. What about that extra guy in case someone gets hurt? Now, when we look at the tight end position, we have Parker Heese, Sam Laporta, Sean McKeon, James Mitchell, Brock Wright, Shane Zielstra. Clearly, Sam Laporta, Brock Wright are a lock. We know that for sure. Without a doubt, 1,000% mail it in. Shane Zielstra was on his way last year until he suffered a pretty nasty injury. I would love to see Shane Zielstra get that option again this year to make the team. He's going to have to fight for it. But James Mitchell has not been intriguing at all since he's come out of school or since he's come out of college. He's been either dinged up or just not very effective when he's in the game. I'm beginning to question if a veteran like Parker Heese can't make this squad over a James Mitchell, another Iowa product, right? So another guy that is developed and molded a lot like Sam Laporta. We know that Iowa turns out tight ends left and right. It's tight end U. So I'm going to be, dark horse here, Parker Heese to make this roster. And does he make it over Shane Zielstra? Does he make it over a James Mitchell? I think that those are the 3 guys right there between Parker Heese, James Mitchell, and Shane Zielstra. They're going to be fighting for the 3rd and potentially 4th tight end spot. So Christian Boer only has them keeping 3. I do think that it is possible that they could keep 4, but where are we going to lose, a player elsewhere? Like where are we going to give one up? And I think that's the harder puzzle to solve. Is it going to be the cornerback room? Doubtful. I think that we go heavy there. Safety room? Doubtful. I still think that we stay heavy there. Offensive line. I mean, last year we only kept 8. So anyway, I think that the Lions could potentially keep 4, but because of numbers reasons, man, I'm going to have to say that they keep 3. They keep 3 and they dress 3 on game day. Sam Laporta, Brock Wright. Yeah. Parker Heese. I'm going to go Parker Heese. I know it's crazy. It's a crazy pick, but hey, it's why it's June. That's why it's June. What do we got in here for comments here? So we got Sanoski says, what kind of an injury did Zielstra suffer last year? It was a gruesome leg injury. I can get you the exact here. Hold on. He injured his knee on a low hit. I thought it was some sort of a lower leg injury, but he injured his knee from Khalil Dorsey in training camp. I think it was training camp. It wasn't early in the season. It was training camp. Khalil Dorsey went low on him, but it was a gruesome injury by the way it was described by all of the reporters that were on the field. So good to see him come back, right? Let me go back in here and see if I can find any definite. Here's by Lions Wire. Shane Zielstra suffers a nasty knee injury in training camp. So I don't have the exact on what exactly happened, but similar to what happened to was it Kirby Joseph? They went low on the Rams tight end there. Very similar type of hit. Very, very similar. All right, so we're gonna move on here. What do we got? What do we have in here for other responses? Mike P says, I think Mitchell is going in tight end room. Zielstra Hess in for 4. Mitchell goes first. One less linebacker. Donkey Kong, dude, I need Houston tickets. Dude, just pay for them. Then you get tickets. Super Bowl or bust. There he is. James says, I'm so excited about this upcoming year. We're talented. That's extremely deep, in my opinion. Sorry, there's like these weird emoji things that cover up the very last message on the chat. I can never see it. How the heck do you pay for the tickets? So Eventbrite. On Eventbrite. Have you visited the event? Here, I'll throw it in the chat. It's a whole trip. Are you in Michigan? So we have a bus leaving out of Grand Rapids. And man, we still have wide open seats available too. And we post this one, the single game tour. It's a whole bus trip. Now you guys can check this out. Oh, whoops. Oh, I'm in my page. Hold on. Hold the phone 1 second. View my event. There we go. I want to share my event. All right, here we go. Oh, you know what? It's too big. I don't think I can post it in the chat because it has too many characters. Here, see if that works. Yeah, so yeah, Donkey Kong. So the bus will be going straight south, southwest. I mean, it would be passing somewhere near Chicago. I mean, not near Chicago because we'd be way south of that. But I mean, you could absolutely meet up with us somewhere if you do decide to do it. We'll figure it out. I'll give you the route. We'll tell you when to be there, and we'll pick you up on the way. Now, I won't do that for everybody, but if you're just in the Chicago, Green Bay, Minnesota area and you're going to make your way down, we'll make it happen. But anyway, check it out. There's a few different types of tickets available. One ticket to the game, including the bus, is $1,600 right now. And the local games like Chicago, Green Bay, Vikings, Colts, those tickets are a lot less expensive because they're not overnight. They're not overnight, 2 nights hotel. It gets real expensive by the time you do a trip like that. But there's all different tickets listed right now. I think all of them are up now. Eventbrite's been real slow on getting these things put up for me. So we'll do the best we can. Hopefully we get some full games sold. If not, we'll try next year and we'll just hone it into the ones that we can sell. All right. So offensive line. Let's move on to offensive line. So last year, the Lions kept 8. Let's review last year. Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, Vaitai, Penei Sewell, Glasgow, Kobe Sorsdahl, Matt Nelson. We know this room. We know that this room has changed quite a bit. So this year we've got locks, right? Frank Ragnow, Graham Glasgow, Kevin Zeitler, Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell. There's your 5 starters. Those guys are locked. We had 8 last year. I think we ran into a problem with injuries that only keeping 8 kind of gave the Lions some heartburn throughout the season, right? They were struggling to get good quality guys in. Hank Fraley did an excellent job doing the best he could with what he had, but they were constantly shifting guys around. And I think that's more of a headache than they really want it to be. This year, obviously, they made some moves during the draft. Even though Christian Mahogany and Giovanni Manu, relatively relatively big projects, guys that, they could step in if they had to. I mean, they've played the game of football for a long time, but if they had to step in, would it be the best product? No. It wouldn't. But could you throw him in there if you had to? I think you could. So, in my opinion, they're not going anywhere. Those guys there's no way you put them on a practice squad or not cut them or have to cut them, at 50. They'd get picked up. You just drafted them. Someone would find a spot for them in a heartbeat. So between the 5 starters, Christian Mahogany and Giovanni Manu, they're locks. And then you've got Colby Sorsdahl, last year's draft pick, a lock. Who's the last guy that's going to make the squad? I mean, who's the guy that's been fighting and scrapping every single week in practice? Him and Barnes just getting after it. This guy wants to be on the team this year. And in between, Dan Skipper or Connor Galvin, Michael Neese, I don't see how Dan Skipper doesn't make the roster. He's been around on this team for a very long time. He knows what he's doing. I think that Dan Skipper is the 9th guy added to this roster. I'm in 100% agreement with Christian Boer on this one. I'm in 100% agreement with Christian Boer. So, again, Frank Ragnow, Graham Glasgow, Kevin Zeitler, Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell, Christian Mahogany, Giovanni Manu, Colby Sorsdahl, Dan Skipper. J-Rod says we got a couple C UDFAs, couple C UDFA. Brian Hudson, I didn't know he's on the roster right now. I don't see him on the roster. Hostage 4-2. Skipper better stop fighting with the defense. Skipper is making the team, says Tracy. If Tracy says it, it's a lock. Count Buffalo says, can you imagine you put Gibbs in the slot, Amon-Ra, and J-Mo on the outside with Laporta at tight end? How in the hell can you defend that? You can't. And you know what? No respect. We don't have any respect for the defense. I promise you. No respect for the defense this year. I don't care what defense it is. They better respect the hell out of us, though. This is going to be the make or break season for Dan Campbell. And I'll tell you why towards the end of the show tonight. And no, I don't mean his job is in jeopardy. That's not what I mean. So Christian Boer says with the starting 5 set, the Lions have several key players to choose from as backups. Skipper can be ready to tackle depth, as Manu may require more seasoning before he's ready. Sorsdahl has also gotten reps back at tackle and can be a utility piece. Coyote Iwasika is the odd man out for now, though he would be a practice squad candidate who could be elevated in a pinch, which he was last year a few times in this scenario. It's hard to see either rookie not making the roster, and Sorsdahl has the benefit of being a pick from a year ago. Man, we're 1,000% lockstep on this one. Even mention the same type of talk path here. All right, defensive line. So this is where things could start to get weird for the Lions this year. And you're running out of space. Like this is going to be a team that you're going to cut some players that you don't want to cut. I mean, I'm sure it happens every year, but we're finally at a point, guys and ladies, that this team is so good and so deep that when we do cut these players, we mean the Lions, when the Lions have to cut these players, it's going to hurt. It's going to sting. It's going to draw on some emotion, of guys that you've battled with, maybe for the last 3 seasons, as a coach, as a positional coach, as a teammate, it's going to sting. And as fans, we're going to, probably have some feelings about it too, but then also realize we just got better. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's part of the business. So defensive line, last season, the Lions kept 5 interior defensive linemen: Alim McNeill, Isaiah Buggs, Levi Onwuzurike, Benito Jones, and Broderick Martin. As we know, Benito went back home to Florida. Isaiah Buggs bounced last year towards the end of the season to Kansas City. Who knows what he's doing now? Apparently he doesn't know how to take care of his dogs. Maybe he forgot all about his dogs when he won that Super Bowl for sitting on the bench. No pun intended there. So interior defensive line, we kept 5. I think that the Lions are probably in the same neighborhood this year. You know, if we look at the roster right now, true defensive linemen, hand in the dirt, you know, defensive linemen. John Kaminsky is kind of like that hybrid, right? Broderick Martin, Lee McNeill, Levi Onwuzurike, Josh Pascal is kind of the hybrid. Kyle Pecco, DJ Reader, if I didn't already mention him, Chris Smith, Mekhi Wingo is a hybrid. He's someone that, you know, is an interior defender that can also, you know, become a pass rusher on the outside if you really need him to, especially if he drops 10 pounds, man. Then yeah, he's someone that can rush from the outside. So we have quite a few bodies, and right away we know Alim McNeill and DJ Reader are a lock. Here's the situation that could be brewing, and I hope it doesn't. But we heard that DJ Reader might not be ready for training camp, and then we also heard that he might not be ready for week 1. If that's the case, I'm going to throw this out there. This is just me talking. It's just my opinion. If he's not even going to be anywhere close to ready week 1, last year I said the same thing about Emmanuel Mosley. If he's not ready, let him take 4 weeks off. Like, bring him back week 5, put the injury designation on him that only has him hold out for 4 weeks, right? Let him get fully healthy, because it doesn't do us any good for him to come back in week 2 or week 3 and get re-injured. It makes no sense. Let the guy sit. The reason why I say that is because then you can keep another one of these guys on the roster, get through the first wave of cuts in practice squad. It'll be much easier to keep that guy that you have to downgrade later to the practice squad. See where I'm going with that? It'll be much easier to let him make it to the practice squad as opposed to cutting them now, and they're going to get picked up potentially by somebody. So if DJ Reader's not even close, I hope that they put an injury designation on him that allows him to sit for the first 4 weeks, come back week 5, ready to roll. So Alim McNeill, obviously a lock. I'm going to throw DJ Reader in there for now. So I'm going to keep 6 defensive linemen, with one of them obviously being an injury designation for DJ Reader. Kind of like your pinch hitter right now, right? Mekhi Wingo, Broderick Martin, I think that there's no reason he doesn't make this team. The questions start with Kyle Pecco or Levi Onwuzurike. I don't know enough on Kyle Pecco. J-Rod says Pecco gets cut. J-Mommy says, I'm curious to see how Martin develops. And J-Rod says, Bug's an idiot. Yeah, we know Bug's is an idiot. Levi finally arrives. J-Rod says, Nick Muti? Who's Muti? Why is that name not popping off to me? Muti makes the roster. I tell you what, if it were me, I mean, obviously I'm going to keep Levi Onwuzurike if he can stay healthy. I think that he's finally shown that, you know, maybe there's a chance that he can turn out to be a good player and a good role player at that. But if I were really to, you know, really want to lose somebody here, it's not. I really don't want to lose Kaminsky, even though I understand that he's kind of that hybrid guy, plays more on the end. I would hate to lose Kaminsky. But from a pure defensive tackle position, Alim McNeill, DJ Reader, Mekhi Wingo, Broderick Martin, Levi Onwuzurike, I think are all in. And if I had to keep one extra guy, that's a challenge, man. I think Kyle Pecco makes it. I'm sorry. I do. I think that if Reader gets sat, Kyle Pecco's obviously in. I don't think Chris Smith makes it, though. I don't think there's a chance he makes it. All right, so up next is the edge position. And this is the one where I did not want to lose Kaminsky. I did not want to lose him as that hybrid role. You know, he's kind of interior, exterior. You know, he's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife, if you will. A heck of a leader. He's someone that has really helped this team since he's been a part of it. But you got Aiden Hutchinson. Clearly, he's a lock. Marcus Davenport, Josh Pascal, James Houston. You got Matthew Betts. Who else do we have out there? Yeah, peek at the roster, see if there's any changes. Let's see. Matthew Betts. You got John Kaminsky, Aiden Hutchinson, Josh Pascal. Oh, I see. Netanyahu Muti, guard. That's an interesting choice for the offensive line. It wasn't popping to me. I apologize. So this is a tough one. I mean, you almost have to lose. You almost have to lose somebody. I mean, you don't have a choice, especially if you keep an extra defensive lineman. You'd have to shave. Well, I would only keep an extra defensive lineman, assuming that DJ Reader's not available week 1, so that's a wash. I have the Lions keeping 5 defensive linemen, 10 overall, but 5 on the defensive line. As far as edge goes, Aiden Hutchinson's a lock. Marcus Davenport's a lock. Is Josh Pascal a lock right now? He's going to have to play. Is James Houston a lock? Is Matthew Betts a lock? I don't think so. I don't think any of these guys are really a lock right now, but that's why we're doing this in June. So for me, I think it's simple. I think that somehow it's Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport, James Houston, Matthew Betts, and then my wild card is Josh Pascal or John Kaminsky. Who's it? Which one are you going to roll with? Because you've got Mekhi Wingo, who can definitely play, that hybrid role. Maybe Mekhi Wingo gets put in as an edge and you lose Josh Pascal or James Houston. I doubt it. So that's it. Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport, Josh Pascal, James Houston, and Matthew Betts. I think that those are the best 5 right now. I would love to see him keep 6, but I think 6 is just way too many. And then obviously linebackers last before you get to cornerbacks and safeties. So Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez, Jalen Reeves-Maben, says Christian Boer. Let me wind back and tell you what he said about the edge position. So he says the edge position needs new blood. As a unit struggled to get to the passer last year, Houston is back and healthy after missing most of last year, and he can be a major contributor in his 3rd NFL season. Betts is the pick here over John Kaminsky in what was one of the toughest cuts. Kaminsky's role diminished down the stretch last season, and Betts offers interesting potential as the 2023 CFL Most Outstanding Defensive Player. Well, I'll tell you this, right now, you can take that Most Outstanding Player Year award, whatever it is, and throw it out the window because it means nothing. It means nothing in the NFL. Yes, he can prove to be a hot commodity on this team. Yes, his talent is undeniable. His speed is undeniable. His value is undeniable. I think Matthew Betts offers plenty of interesting options for the Lions this season. And I do think that he's probably a front runner to make this team right now. But losing John Kaminsky, even though understanding, his role has diminished, that one's still really tough for me. But that's exactly where I was at in the beginning talking about this. We're going to have some players that are really, really tough to watch go. And John would be picked up in a heartbeat by another team. So J-Mommy says Pascal is definitely staying. Houston is the question mark. Kryptonic TV says, I bet a kidney on Betts getting his shot early, and then he's going to stick with his play. Count Buffalo says, if you go back and watch Wingo at LSU, they lined him up at the edge quite often. I wonder if the Lions will use him that way. I would say that they would. And they did mention interior pass rush with Wingo too. So I think that they've seen it. I mean, obviously they've seen it. He was picked for a reason. Wingo has a lot of upside. I think that he's going to be a very good player in the next, couple of seasons. Give him some time to acclimate, give him some time to adjust, get his body right. I mean, you've seen the transformation that Aiden Hutchinson has made from year 1 to year 3. His body is totally different. All of these guys, by their third season are totally different. That's why Brad Holmes said, has always said, judge my guys in year 3. Don't judge them in year 1 or 2. Judge them in year 3. Let them get through the full process. If they can stick around and last in this league 3 seasons, then judge them. And I agree with that, 1,000%. Tracy says, edge will be rotational to keep fresh legs in the game and depending on the play. Kryptonic TV says, I'll disagree with you about the award. If it was just one, Betts is the most awarded player in CFL and college history, all-time college and CFL sack leader, only player ever to win all 4 majors. I'm not saying that the award is meaningless. It's just meaningless in the NFL now. Like, the talent level is so much different. And in college, I mean, he played college in Canada. The best comparison we have with Canadian football, is like a Division II team at best in the States. That's coming from college coaches that we had on the podcast. So that's just my opinion, but I agree. I'll agree to disagree with you, Kryptonic, but that's your opinion. It's cool to have it. I feel like that award is just kind of meaningless because it's not the same level of play, but his talent is undeniable. His speed is undeniable. Everything about Metu Betts I love. When I broke down his tape and did a video on him, I was thoroughly impressed with the way that he got off the ball, the way that he read the snap, anticipated the snap, got upfield in a hurry, knocked big guys over. I mean, he was just impressive. Very, very impressive. But now we got to see it against Penei Sewell. And, Decker. Like, that's his competition now. Now he's got to do it. If he can get 10 sacks this year, then I would say that award was not meaningless, and I'll eat crow for a whole week. All right, so linebackers. Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez, Jalen Reeves, Mabin. Those are the 5 that Christian Boer has. I don't think that I have anything different. You got Mitchell Agudi, who might be the only one that has an outside shot right now. Haven't heard anything about Steel Chambers. Haven't heard anything about Deron Gilbert. And I guess that's the funny part of this is when you look at linebackers and you look at the Lions roster and the depth chart, they have certain players listed as outside linebacker or, edge, right? And the linebackers are kind of a mixed bag where James Houston could be an outside linebacker. Metu Betts has been playing at the Sam, outside linebacker. So those are 2 guys that could end up in the outside linebacker room, which makes no sense to me, but it's just how they roll. They kind of intertwine all of these positions. It depends on where they're going to be played, how they're going to be used, where do they really belong. I don't see anything different here. I think if anybody has an outside chance to make this roster, Mitchell Agudi's been playing well, but we got to see the pads. So that's why it's June, way too early in June. Linebackers, Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez, Jalen Reeves, Mabin. I would love to see the Lions somehow keep a sixth linebacker, but it may not be needed with James Houston and Metu Betts, listed as edge rushers. I think linebackers well covered. Cornerback room. Yeah, immediate Chris Spielman vibes from Jack Campbell. Is that who we're talking about? Or are you talking about Betts? I'll move on here. Cornerbacks. Hey, Michael, what's happening, man? So cornerbacks, we've got Christian Boer stating you got Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, Meek Robertson, Ennis Rakestraw, Emmanuel Mosley, and Khalil Dorsey. making this roster as our 6 cornerbacks. Now, last season, I kept forgetting to go and look at who we kept last season. So last year, let me wind back a minute. Linebackers, we kept 6 last year. We kept Anzalone, Campbell, Rodriguez, Barnes, and Mabin. Anthony Pittman was the 6th. And interior defensive linemen, we kept 5. Edge, we kept 7. And see, the issue is we only kept 8 offensive linemen last year. So that's where you could make up an extra defender. I don't see how we lose. If we lost anybody, it's Dan Skipper. And then that would give us an extra option to keep another defensive lineman. All right, cornerback last year we kept 7. This year, Christian Boer has 6. Man, totally different cornerback room. I mean, when you look at it, the only player that is still a part of this room, Khalil Dorsey, Manuel Mosley, Stephen Gilmore, who, he's on the roster. But keeping 6 this year. Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, Ennis Rakestraw, Manuel Mosley, Khalil Dorsey. I don't see much difference than Christian Boer with this one. I mean, I think that these are the easiest ones to answer. Could Stephen Gilmore be the 7th cornerback? Potentially. I mean, he has been playing decent. And then you've also got Kendall Vildor. Is he somebody that's going to make this roster? Potentially. So I would say right now the fight is going to be between Khalil Dorsey, Kendall Vildor, and Gilmore to kind of round out that last spot. Now, Khalil Dorsey did just go down with an injury, I believe. So that may, dictate where he ends up overall. But I'm going to be in agreement right now. If we only keep 6, I think Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold are your 1 and 2. Amik Robertson, Ennis Rakestraw. Clearly guys that fit on this team. Ennis Rakestraw is, going to be fighting to get playing time this year, but he's going to be a solid backup. Amik Robertson is an absolute dog. He could slide in at that nickel spot. And Brian Branch could slide back to safety and stay there. He may not play, nickel the entire season, which could mean the Lions could find another cornerback and keep 7. So I'm in agreement here. Last year, like I said, we kept 7. This year, I think we keep 6. Potential to keep 7, but we'd have to lose an offensive lineman or something to keep this extra player because we just don't have room. You can't really do anything with the tight ends. I mean, if you only kept 5 wide receivers, then you could add an extra player. We're already down to 3 running backs and only 2 quarterbacks. So the only extra player that I kept was 6 wide receivers instead of 5. I only kept 3 tight ends. I did keep all 9 offensive linemen. So if you lose an offensive lineman and a receiver, then yes, you could add an extra corner or an extra edge or an extra defensive lineman or an extra safety. At the end of the day, we know how Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes go about business here. It is not so much about the position that you play. They are going to keep the best 53 players on this roster, hands down, which means they might end up with an extra player somewhere. But that's just how they view it. That's how they do it every year. At least that's what they tell us they do. So I'm in agreement here. I don't see anything changed. Do you guys see any changes here? Kryptonic TV says Gilmore would have to find his way by taking Chase Lucas's role on special teams. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, we know Chase Lucas is, I think he's still with the 49ers. He signed with the 49ers this year. I don't think he's, been moved, but that would make sense. I mean, that's kind of where his position was last year, was fighting for that last spot. Maintaining the practice squad position all year. I do like Khalil Dorsey. I do. And I did last year. And I know he didn't get a ton of time, but then he got, that knee injury the other day. or I'm sorry, what they anticipated was a gruesome injury. They carted him off the field and then later said it was like a high ankle sprain. Like, come on, guys. Just terrible journalism. Made me fail too. So you got Vaki is a two-way player here. I like the Hostage 42 is mentioning that being able to play DB and RB opens up some spots. I mean, it could. I don't see Vaki. I don't see Vaki taking a safety position away. I see him being an addition to as a running back. I see him being an addition to. I think that he'll be able to get some time in the DB room, more so at running back, at least from what they've been saying all off season. But he could get some time in the DB room that may open up a spot. Craig Reynolds could find his way back on this team if Vaki ends up as a safety. Speaking of safeties, Christian Boer kept 5, Kirby Joseph, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Brian Branch, Brandon Joseph, and CJ Moore, who made his way back to the team this year after serving an entire year suspension. Last season, the Lions kept 4 safeties, CJ Gardner, Kirby Joseph, Tracy Walker, and Ifeatu Melifonwu. So I'm in agreement that they could keep 5, but this is where things can change too. Like you were just talking about Sion Vaki. So if Sion Vaki ends up a safety, who do you lose? They really like CJ Moore. They always have. He was our special teams ace before he screwed up. So CJ Moore probably does not go anywhere. If he's back to his normal self, where he was prior to having to serve suspension for gambling, there's no reason in the world why he does not make this team. Training camp is going to be everything for CJ Moore and Brandon Joseph, who has really stepped up early in this season so far. Our locks are clear. Kirby Joseph, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Brian Branch, they're not going anywhere. Those are your starters, your nickel, your free, and your strong safety. And you've got your starting corners with Carlton and Terrian. We got plenty of backups here. We've got plenty of options. And I see an opportunity here for the Lions to keep 5. So again, I'm in agreement with Christian Boer. This does not happen very often. I'm not usually in agreement with a lot of things that Christian puts out. I don't know why, but for some reason we just end up being on polar opposite opinions most of the time. But this time I'm liking what he's kind of putting together. Obviously I had a little bit different of a makeup on a few positions, but it is what it is. So anything here you guys feel like could be a change? Michael says our safety special teams outside of kicking are freaking elite. They are absolutely elite. CJ Moore is a lock, according to Kryptonic TV. Branch is so unique because he can play nickel, corner, and safety. Count Buffalo. John Doe says we need to sign Justin Simmons, $38 million in cap. Use it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. You guys know I was high on Justin Simmons early in free agency when we didn't sign anybody. So now that we've kind of gone through all of free agency, it doesn't make any sense to me to go out and sign Simmons, especially when you have Kirby, Ifeatu, and Brian Branch. Now, they did struggle at times last year. Ifeatu and Kirby Joseph did struggle. But I have a feeling here that the Lions are hedging their bets on one important factor for this season. They upgraded the cornerback room big time. And I felt like your safety play really depends on your corner play, right? Safeties play cleanup duty. So if your safety play can't depend on the cornerback room, then you're in trouble. And that's kind of what happened this entire season last year, is our safeties were getting burned, scorched, whatever you want to call it, because we did not have consistently good cornerback play. That's going to change this year. Now, you could also reverse that. Your cornerback room can be led by your safeties. If you have 2 elite safeties, well, obviously playing over top, it's going to give a lot more help and lend more credibility to your cornerback room, knowing that you're going to have some guys back there to back you up. A huge shout out by Robert Welch here, $20 super chat. Says, I'm up on my 70 to 80 hours a week work schedule, checking in while I got time between a bathroom break and a quick nap. Keep it up, brother. I need my Lions news on the fly. Well, here you go. Here's some more Lions news on the fly, Robert Welch. Enjoy your crapper. And we'll talk to you tomorrow morning if you're still up and around in the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Thank you for joining us tonight. Enjoy your break, man. Enjoy your break. Michael Garrity says the Lions secondary will be fired this year. The Lions should get much more pressure this year. Defensive backs will benefit. Absolutely. So I was really high on the cornerback room getting adjusted this year, and they did just that. And I think that we're going to see benefits on both sides, of the defense here. The front line and the back half are going to benefit from each other. We've improved our defensive line play in the interior. We've also improved our cornerback play, even though they haven't played a snap together yet. I think it's pretty safe to assume that this cornerback room of Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, Ennis Rakestraw, Emmanuel Mosley, when healthy, and Khalil Dorsey is going to be far superior than Cameron Sutton, Jerry Jacobs, Emmanuel Mosley. Well, they kind of wash each other out. Will Harris and Stephen Gilmore. Now, Khalil Dorsey was also on the roster last year. So as a 1-for-1 trade, Carlton Davis is better than Cameron Sutton. Terrion Arnold asleep is better than Jerry Jacobs. Sorry, Jerry, had to. Emmanuel Mosley is definitely not better than himself. I'm gonna have to change something here. Last year we were up against the same timeline with Emmanuel Mosley. I don't know that Emmanuel Mosley is going to be ready week 1. So are the Lions going to make the same mistake? And are they going to activate him in the 53-man roster at cuts and not let him have an injury designation for the first 4 weeks of the season, knowing how deep we are in the cornerback room? Because if they do that this year, unlike they did last year, that means that we're going to be keeping another cornerback. So watch out for that as time progresses here with the Lions through training camp. And I think that's where Kindle Vildor makes this roster. There you go. Don Burr says it too. Kindle Vildor. So yeah, I think that's where the Lions are heading. Let's not make the same mistake twice, right? If they're not ready, injury designation, put them down for 4 weeks. We're deep. We are deep in so many positions. We do not have to rush guys. I would rather have them, week 6 through 18 than not at all. Right. I think we could all agree with that. All right. So lastly, we've got special teams. I don't think that this one's any secret. Scott Daly's our long snapper. Jack Fox is our punter. And Michael Badgley so far is our kicker. Will the Lions bring in, some kicking help? I'm not real sure that they are. Boom Boom Bates is available. Is he someone that we absolutely have to have on this team? No. But he does have a very intriguing leg, and I am not opposed to at least seeing what this guy can do in a training camp situation. Guy can kick it for a mile, it seems like. And then you've also got Turner. So Turner with the Lions right now has been turning heads during these camps, mini camps and practices. So I would not be surprised if Badgley gets beat out by somebody during, this year's training camp. We'll see. So that was it for tonight. That was tonight's show. That's what I wanted to discuss. It was kind of give you guys the early 53-man predictions. One by Christian Boer, second by myself. Alim McNeill, man, let's watch that again. Where's that video? Do I saw that video up? Oh, I don't. Alim McNeill. So if you go back and watch the beginning of the show, we were talking about Alim McNeill being fullback potential, something that the Lions have thought about, talked about, and there's some video of his high school playing days, playing running back, running it in for a touchdown. I thought it was pretty cool to see him do that. Big man running the ball. Love it. He looked effortless. Looked absolutely effortless. So, all right, you guys are awesome. Appreciate you guys joining tonight. Even though it was a late scheduled show, 120 people showed up tonight. So appreciate it. We'll look forward to seeing you guys in the morning. We got over under 20 different topics we're going to talk about, and top 10 NFL teams headed into training camp. Who are the top 10 NFL teams to win the Super Bowl in 2024, and where do the Detroit Lions end up? You'll find out tomorrow morning. All right, you guys, go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. We'll see y'all tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye-bye.